6, Northern Terrafly runway heading, runway 5. Clear for takeoff.
From Psychic Sundays to ET Contact and everything in between, this is Spaced Out Sunday's Cosmic Passport with host Elizabeth Anglin.
Check it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That'd be great. So guys, smoke now.
You can connect with Elizabeth on Skype at 505-908-9558 and Spirit for Peace. Follow Liz on Twitter at Elizabeth Anglin and hashtag SpacedOutRadio. And you can connect with us on the web at spacedoutradio.com.
I feel the need for speed.
You feel it over and over again. We take you higher and higher and higher. You feel it over and over again.
Chills, now. Smoke off now.
This is the love we live again.
Chills, we keep on it.
Letting go the heart will go.
Contact.
Nothing is
Easy up. Chills, now.
just look inside and feel it over and over.
Really, now. One level.
We take you.
Don't look much like Los Angeles to me. I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
Now taking you on a spiritual journey from the desert of New Mexico this Sunday night, here's Spaced Out Sunday's Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. This is normally Psychic Sunday, but we're going to mix it up tonight with a little chat with Dave Scott and all of you about paranormal struggles and what about the paranormal really bugs you and makes you want to quit and whether or not you should. I am your host, Elizabeth Anglin. We are coming to you from the Spaced Out Radio Cosmic Cruise Mobile from the deliciously wild and wacky desert southwest, Madrid, New Mexico, as we do every Sunday here on spacedoutradio.com. For all of you living in and listening in from around North America and the world, I want to welcome you, especially those who are on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and KTLK, The Fringe. We want to thank our guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio rock, the official spacedoutradio.com music. If you are a web surfer, Twitterer, Facebooker, you can check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We are also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. And if you go to Patreon.com, we have some cool offers for you, our listeners there as well. Make sure you check those out. If you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign into one of our chat rooms on Spreaker or on the chat room on Facebook on the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. We offer some decent stuff as it's our opportunities to give back to you, and we'd love it if you'd join us. We have a news section called The Encounter that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. You can check out Dave Scott's latest blog there as well. And if you've had an experience that you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researchers are ready to find out what's going on with you. Well, tonight I am welcoming in Dave Scott, y'all know him, y'all love him if you've been listening to the show. If you haven't, you should know Dave Scott. He's a pretty cool guy. We're going to be talking about paranormalist struggles and paranormal struggles. What's so hard about the field, if not just everything, and what makes us think that sometimes we should run away screaming as if our hair is on fire and, maybe take a bath in holy water and find a priest and all of the other things that actually I do on a regular basis. I just don't like to admit it. So, Dave Scott, thanks for being here tonight. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you doing tonight?
I am hanging in. I hope I can make it through the show without having a heart attack. So far so good. Things are looking up.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. And it's funny because you and I were talking earlier today about this exact same topic, and we're like, you know what? That's what we should do. And it's funny because before you and I actually hooked up on the phone and talked a few hours ago, I had just written my latest blog on some of the struggles I am having in regards to joining the paranormal field a little bit more in detail than what I already do. So it's something that I am, struggling with about my own identity on what I want to do in this field.
Can you tell us more about that? Have you posted it yet? Or would it be...
Well, it'll be posted tomorrow morning. The blog gets posted every morning. But, the popularity of the paranormal tourism tours that I do in my area here are growing leaps and bounds. They're becoming very popular, so much so that I did it once a month this year. Next year, I'm probably going to end up doing it twice a month because one of the problems that we were having was we're missing a lot of tourists driving through. Maybe they're from the United States and going up to visit Alaska. We're right along the highway that gets you to Alaska. And so we had a lot of tourists come through and miss, and it is becoming a highlight for a lot of people in the community as well. And the people who helped me out have really been pushing me to start a paranormal team. But here's my problem. I don't know if that's something that I would be good at. Because what I do on the tour is fun. We talk a lot of history. We talk a lot about the spirits who are in the buildings. And we try and get them to discuss who they are and what they're about and what's keeping them here. But when you get into actual paranormal research, as everybody knows, I have been very, very critical about what I feel is right and what I feel is wrong about the paranormal industry. And unfortunately, maybe I'm in the minority, I feel there is a lot more wrong than right with it. And my struggle is, how do I do this without being a hypocrite?
Yeah, that's a big struggle because, immediately you look like a big hypocrite. You can't, it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, must be a duck. So what have you come up with?
Well, I'll tell you what I've come up with is I'm going to take my time. I don't want to be that guy who is looking in the mirror saying, boy, you just did everything you have contradicted on Spaced Out Radio. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that guy. And I will be, having to sit down with potential team members and actually go over what we're trying to accomplish. Because I think part of the goal, and I've said this many a time on the show, part of the problem that we have in the paranormal is so many teams don't have an actual goal of what they are trying to solve. Yet, they hide behind words like science and research and demonology. They hide behind those words. But what are they doing to solve the problem? And I don't want to play Pokemon Ghost. I want to get out there in the field and I want to make a difference in people's lives. I just have to figure out for me what works best for me. And is it worth doing and putting the effort into it, especially if there is going to be contradiction between the teammates? because everybody, in my opinion, has to be a cohesive unit, otherwise it's not going to work. So these are my struggles. The other struggle I am having, Liz, is, as you so boldly put it the last time you and I talked a number of weeks ago, you had mentioned that, I'm pretty good intuitively, which I still fight, you know that. And I'm trying to figure out a healthy balance between technology and intuition. And that is another struggle for me, because I think people want to see all the gadgetry that is out there, because for some reason gadgetry and all of these technological toys that paranormal enthusiasts are scooping up like hotcakes for their own investigations, it almost is like that's what makes you important. How much gear do you have? Whereas I want to be able to hone my own intuitive skills, so that way I can figure out a compromising balance between what is going on spiritually and what is going on technologically as well.
Okay, so let's get to the difference between the spiritual aspects of it. I also want to add that there are community aspects of this, and that it can be, the paranormal or can be historical. It can be a visceral, historical education, interactive learning experience that, like a docent in a good museum, like somebody who explains the history of a place and the people who were there, that it has a community value to it. It expands people's minds to what our history was and helps them not to forget what that history was. Then there, on the other hand, is the scientific part. And I can tell you from working at MIT, scientists do not often like each other. And depending on what their jobs are on any given research team, they may just be at each other's throats if there isn't a strong person or a couple strong people to say, hey, cut it out, let's get back to the job at hand. So, I feel for you here. And, as your friend, I'd say, go stay away from the science of it, find some geeks. But what do you think? What do you think you will end up doing?
I think what I have to do first is I have to make sure that I choose the right people. And I'm going to take that phase very, very seriously if and when I get to it. I think choosing the right people with the right mindset and understanding that we're not just there for the thrill. I think that's very important. The beautiful part about the museum is, and having keys to the museum, is I can go down there at any time and investigate to hone the techniques. A lot of people don't have that ability to do so, especially in a museum as haunted as the one that I coordinate the tours for. So it's a matter of honing the skills and getting the right people involved. And as long as you have the right people on board with the right message, then I think you have to look at taking the next step. And that is finding a way to help people. Because in the end, it's not about, at least in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're in the chat rooms or whatever, okay, but in my opinion, ghost hunting isn't about the team who's looking for the ghosts. It's about two other things. It's about your client, and it's about the spirit itself. You're just the conduit between the two. And if we have people out there who are just like, oh man, did you hear that EVP? Or, oh man, I can't believe I just got touched, and they're there for the thrill. What are you solving? What's the message you are trying to create? Are you really there to help the spirit or your client? Or are you there for yourself and your own ego? And I think that's where choosing the right people is going to be great. Now, the good part for me, and where I'm lucky because of the show, is I get to work with good people. Okay? I get to work with you. If I have a question spiritually, I can call you up at any time. I can call R. Keith Andrews up at any time. I can call up Eric Cooper and his team from Forest Moon Paranormal. I can call up Eric Markham, our resident scientist, and say, hey, I need an answer to this. What do you think of this? And I can do it immediately. A lot of people don't have that. I'm lucky that I've got the people who would help me out. So that makes it a little bit easier for me. But it's a matter of getting in touch with yourself, too. Because I don't want to be one of these guys who, I know I'm intuitive, I know I get things, but am I getting the right information? I want to be 100% clear that I am confident in myself in order to lead this pack into an investigation, and when I see something or hear something, have the strength to say it like I see it, rather than questioning myself and being skeptic on myself whether or not that was a true message. So there are a lot of variables in regards to this.
Yes, I can see that, and I think that when you're talking about being confident in yourself, that as an intuitive, you are really intuiting something real versus something that might be a temporary manifestation of a group consciousness or a group wanna see. Which is, that's your typical thing. When you're a kid and you go out on a ghost hunt, or you're staying the night in a tent, or you go, you have a seance, and all of a sudden everybody thinks they're feeling something or hearing something or getting touched by something. As an intuitive, you have to be strong and to be out in the field in that situation, and to have that sort of inner calm and quiet and non-reactiveness to say, yeah, that's something, it's right there. Instead of, I'm caught up in the adrenaline of the moment, I'm caught up in I want to find something. And then you also have to be able to say, I don't see anything. I don't know what's going on, I just don't see anything.
And that is the biggest factor. Like one of the ladies who helps me with the ghost hunt, her name is Carrie. And when we did the ghost hunt a week ago, yesterday, I went into the one building that we call the post house. It was active as anything. Most active I've ever seen it. We were in there for about 40 minutes. Came out of that building. She takes her group in there on the tour. Nothing. Nothing at all. Even though I set up the spirits and said, hey, there's another group coming in. I hope you're able to, continue on with them the way you are with us. However, we go to the main house, barely getting anything. Carrie goes over to the main house. It is everywhere. The spirits are out. They're communicating. The cat is meowing on tape. We have everything going on. We got nothing. So what we have to do is find that balance. And to me, there is so much about trust. Like, we went to, Carrie and myself and a couple other people went last night back to the museum to do our own little ghost hunt, because we have a couple of questions in the main house, especially. In the main house, there is a grizzly bear rug dating back to the 1800s lying on the floor. Every time we put a K2 meter on it, it goes off. So we're trying to figure out if it's the actual bear still around or not. We were unsuccessful in the men's lounge with that. We go over to the ladies' lounge, and we got lucky. And how we got lucky is we knew the spirit of the lady was in there. And we were trying to get her name. Couldn't get it. And then intuitively, all of a sudden, I heard in my head, Evelyn. My name is Evelyn. Okay. And all of a sudden, I said, is your name Evelyn? Nothing comes up on the K2. She goes, call me Lady Evelyn. In my head, I'm hearing this. So I said, is your name Lady Evelyn? All of a sudden, the K2 meter is going crazy. Like a confirmation. So then you slow it down and you say, okay, I need red for yes. And all of a sudden the machine goes to red. So now we solve that mystery. We now have the name of the lady, Lady Evelyn, in the other room. So it's breaking down the mystery. We have time to do that at the museum, but when you're at a client's house, you don't have time because you're on a time limit. And it's all the little steps that I'm unsure of as to whether or not I want to do this. Because it is heavy, and it's something that needs to be taken seriously, rather than a lot of people out there who are trying their damnedest to just have a good time. Smoke a little doob, have a beer, go on an investigation, get back, have another doobie, and, whatever their plan may be. And we know what's happening out there. Many of us have seen it. I've seen it myself with people. It's not right. So you have to beware of what you are doing. and that's the tough part, is trying to make sure that every I is dotted and T is crossed. So before I throw my name into the whole paranormal hat and start up a team up here, I want to make sure that we know what the hell we're doing. Because if we don't know what the hell we're doing, then we might as well not do it. Just continue with the tour, which I would be happy with as well, because it is kind of fun. But I don't like this reckless gander that is going on in the paranormal field where, everybody thinks everybody else's way is full of crap and their way is the only way to do it. No. That's the beauty of hosting Spaced Out Radio, is I've been able to learn what to do and what not to do by taking a little bit of bits and pieces from everybody.
All right, good deal. So we have a question for you from Joe Allgaier in the SOR Space Travelers chat room. He wants to know, would tourists going through a haunted location make the ghosts get tired of all the commotion and go somewhere else? What's your opinion?
The ghosts that are there are pretty set on whether or not they want to talk. There are some that don't like the tour. There are some that absolutely love the tour. And we do have spiritual travelers through. We had one last night. One that we had never known. And, I got to tell this story. It is so funny. One of the curators for the 108 Museum, a gentleman named Dan, he had never done the tour before. And so I happened to see him yesterday in town, and I said, why don't you come out? We're going to have a little bit of a private tour. He's like, I'm in. What time? I said, 8 o'clock. He's like, I'm there. So he couldn't wait to get to the old Clydesdale barn. We get into the Clydesdale barn, and we're literally getting nothing for the first 10-15 minutes. Then all of a sudden, we're kind of huddled up, wondering what we're going to do, and right in between us, we had 3 K2 meters going, and all 3 K2 meters lit up like a Christmas tree. All bright red at the same time. And I was like, whoa, I've never seen that before. It was fantastic. And so now you have to picture, okay, literally the 3 K2 meters are almost in a triangle of each other, and here is this spirit right in the middle. And we start communicating, and we're getting a lot of dead answers. He's not responding. All of a sudden, Dan speaks up. He goes, do you know where the gold is hidden? And all of a sudden, the meters go right to red, all 3 of them. And he starts talking to this gentleman, whoever it was, he wouldn't give his name, starts talking to the gentleman about all the gold that is hidden in this area right up through Alaska. We determined he was a prospector. We determined he was American. We determined that when he crossed the border of the 49th parallel, that he hopped on a paddle wheeler in the Fraser River, went up to Yale, a mountain town called Yale, and got off the boat there before hopping on a horse and riding probably a few days in order to get up along the Gold Rush Trail. And so when we had him, Dan, and this is going on for about 10-15 minutes, Dan then says, you know where your gold is, and everything is red again. And then Dan follows up, will you tell us where your gold is? That all of a sudden, all the meters that were just flush red went absolute green. Like he went silent. Kind of like, screw you, I'm not telling you where my gold is. It was the funniest thing. I know it was one of those you had to be there moments. But it was the funniest thing because the reaction of this spirit, whoever he was so proud to tell about how much gold he had. But for us to know where he has it hiding, he took that to the other side with him, and he is still not giving it up. So we do have wandering spirits there, Joe, that do wander through. But the main spirits aren't leaving. If they do not want to be a part of the tour, they know they can go hide and disappear inside their building, and they'll be fine. We try and show more respect for the spirits on the tour than we do for literally anybody else. I mean, that's kind of the rule with it. This is about them telling their stories, not about us doing what we do. So I hope that answered your question.
Dave, I've got a question for you as a follow-up to that, and it's a little off to the side, but as you know, I'm in a mining town, Madrid, New Mexico, and it is definitely a ghost town. It's been designated as a ghost town, and there are ghosts here, many, many ghosts here. My question to you is, have you found that there are some places that collect more ghosts than others?
You know what? I think it has something to do with where you are. You know I grew up in what was a small town, now is a city of about 130,000 called Abbotsford, British Columbia. And I spent 15 years living just north of Abbotsford, about 10 miles north of Abbotsford, in a town called Mission. Mission was haunted as anything. I remember when my ex-wife and I were renting half of a duplex, I actually called our realtor up and I said, my place is haunted. What do I do? The realtor's response to me was, doesn't surprise me. I said, whoa, what do you mean it doesn't surprise you? He said, yeah. He goes, far as I know, any building in Mission 45 years of age or older is haunted one way or another. So it doesn't surprise me. Which kind of took me back because I wasn't really involved in the paranormal scene back then. We're going back to about 2001 at that point, 2002. Now, in regards to spirit activity, up here seems to be very active with a trifecta of areas. We get a lot of UFO activity up here. We get a lot of Sasquatch activity up here. And we get a lot of paranormal ghost activity up here because it's old. The buildings are old. The old Gold Rush Trail is still active by a lot of these spirits. And they've stuck around. Maybe it has something to do with the gold and the minerals that are still around. I don't know what kind of mining or whatever was done down in Madrid, New Mexico, but I know up here, between the logging boom and the mining boom, from everything from gold to iron and ore and everything along those lines, there's been a lot of activity around here. Plus, and I don't know how much, Liz, that I buy into this because I just don't really understand it, and that's probably why. But I've been told by a lot of intuitive people that the ley lines up here are so, I don't even know the term for it, clear, if that would be the term, or enriching, that it causes a lot of that activity.
I think that having gold in the land can cause a lot of that activity. We have a huge gold mine here up at the top of the mountain, and in the town we have a coal mine, and then outside of town, sprinkled around, are turquoise mines, and there were probably some others, but the place was originally settled because of the gold that was in the earth and around the earth, and there's an open pit gold mine at the top of the mountain. So same in Telluride. When I was there in Ouray, I would hike around and stumble into spirits that were gold miners, or that were on land that was gold mined or gold filled. And I don't know why that is. Maybe somebody in the chat room, perhaps Robert White, or somebody might tell us what the properties of gold are, that might help with a spiritual connection between the non-physical and the physical. Anyway, it's really interesting. We have another question from Bob Davis. I don't know where this is coming from, Bob, but okay. Why are cats more associated with being familiars than, say, dogs are? I have no clue. Dave Scott, what do you say?
I would say because cats are jerks, and they only care about themselves, whereas a dog's only loyalty is to its master.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know. I think my dog is as familiar, is as much a help in my work as my cat is, so I don't know. I think it might be superstition, Bob Davis. I don't know.
Cats are jerks. They are, for the most part. They're just pissed off that it's 9:30 at Pacific time when they want to be on Eastern time. It's ridiculous.
My dog is kind of a jerk. He's pissed off that I'm not feeding him everything that I eat. So you can call it a jerk, you can call it spoiled. All right, so here's a question for you. We were talking about Steve Huff a little earlier today, real briefly, and I know you don't really have a lot positive to say, but he put out a statement that he's leaving the paranormal. What do you think about that?
I think it's anytime we can rid controversial figures from this field of study, I think it's a good thing. Steve Huff, I think, went above and beyond in a lot of his research where I think it was positive. However, you never knew if it was for publicity or the actual study of the paranormal. He would tell you it was for the study of the paranormal, but being the first one on social media to say that, you connected with this dead movie star or that dead movie star, before they are even in the ground and the family has had time to mourn, in my opinion, I thought was a little bit classless. Once again, that's my opinion. I don't know Steve Huff, never chatted with him, don't know what a kind of a guy he is. But I didn't like that, and that's my opinion on that. And I know a lot of people in the field shared that as well. At least give the family time to grieve before you start trying to say you connected with them on the other side, because his belief was the closer you can connect with a spirit to the time of death, the easier it is to make communication. And I don't know if I buy that or not. However, this is where we get into the whole idea of people abusing the word science in regards to this field. So I do think that he made some incredible advancements in a lot of technology, especially in the ghost box and the ITC era. And I think he was able to, take a few steps forward where a lot of people are staying stagnant. Now, he quit because he felt that he was being attacked by something demonic. And he even admitted that he pushed the envelope. And this isn't a field of study to mess with. And I think too many people mess with it because, let's face it, we're all brave until something happens. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be seeing a snake on the ground, a spider on your wall, a great white shark in the ocean. I'm going by my fears. Gnomes. Okay, it could be anything to spark that fear. And I think a lot of people who get into the paranormal, it's their chance to walk tough and walk tall, and they dress the part. And Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer and I will always have a good laugh at this one lady who showed up at the Paracon in Provincetown, and she was dressed all gangsta. That she was the paranormal gangsta is what she called herself. And really, you need that image? What are you going to do? You're going to go thug life on a ghost? Like, come on, grow up. You don't need an image for this field. How about you just do some bloody research and get it out there? So I think ridding the field of people who are overtly or go out of their way to be controversial is a good thing. The fact that he was able to see it himself, that he pushed the buttons too far, and that's why he was getting out of it, I think is a good thing. However, he's just one person that was causing a little bit of outrage in this field. And he liked to push the buttons. He did. Like I said, go ahead.
So he may be suffering from the backlash of a fair amount of evil, of attention getting, attention seeking, and just doing the job egotistically. What is your opinion about people who go into the paranormal field with a great deal of ego, instead of perhaps, I just want to understand and be of service? It would seem, I don't know, what do you think?
Well, I think that's a legitimate concern. I think it's a very legitimate concern that there are too many people in this for themselves, as what I stated a little bit earlier in regards to what is your purpose for being a paranormal investigator. I don't want someone, like when I put together my team, I don't want someone to say, well, I watch a lot of paranormal TV and ghosts are kind of cool, and I think I can do that. Or I don't want someone coming up to me and say, well, it looks easy, or I got the interest because of television. I want people who are there for a reason, and there's not enough purpose that comes out. There isn't enough purpose. I mean, that's why paranormal tourism is so hot right now. And granted, this is where I have to walk a fine line because of the tour I give out. Paranormal tourism helps pay the bills at the nonprofit society called the 108 Mile Ranch Museum or Heritage Site. And that's what we have to try and do. But if you're part of a paranormal team and you have no concept of what you are trying to do, okay, don't give me this crap that you need a demonologist and you need this and you need that. You got to spend $7,000 worth of equipment and bring that into everything. I don't think you do. I really don't think you do.
Well, that sounds reasonable. Robert White has written back to us about gold. Traditional folklore and crystal healing metaphysical lore say that the following things are true about gold. Gold can balance energy fields, is beneficial for opening and balancing the third eye and crown chakras. It can also balance the heart chakra. It can remove negative energy from the chakras, bring in the positive from stones that are with it, and it has been used to bring wealth, happiness, stress relief, and good feelings. Gold is a mineral of spirituality, understanding, and attunement to nature. It attracts positive energy, and it is said to be a great healing mineral. Perhaps we see ghosts in areas of gold because they are attracted to it? What do you think?
Well, who wouldn't be attracted to gold? I mean, what's the energy of it? I mean, Liz, you would know better than I would. How many times have we heard from people who are extremely connected to extraterrestrials saying that a lot of ETs visit Earth because of the gold?
Oh, yeah, they've told me that many of the smaller ships that you would actually be able to find if you went out on a UFO search for crashed ships are gold prospecting ships. So even in your area where you're finding these UFOs along with these ghosts, they're probably there for gold as well. And for various reasons. I never got a reason, but except that, oh yeah, we were up, this ship's in Alaska. It was in the gold prospecting business or the gold mining business. It was a transport for gold. Mm-hmm. And this is from the aliens themselves. They're saying, oh yeah, that's what it was doing.
Absolutely. So I think the gold is an attractant, and it probably has more powers than what we even know.
Yes, and in terms of religious value, it is related to spiritual mediumship. In the spirituals temple that I learned in, the room that we learned in was painted gold. And when I first set up a Reiki clinic, I had painted a gold room. It's associated with the angelic beings of goodness and light. And so, if beings are attracted to it, perhaps they're attracted to it because they in some way need that or are searching for that. And it feels good. So, well, given that, Dave Scott, what's the other thing that's around your area besides UFOs and ghosts? What were you saying?
We got Sasquatch as well. And I have to find someone who I can go out into the wilderness with in order to go pursue the Sasquatch. And I'm not sure if there's going to be many around here because of the forest fires that have hit this area. It's something that I'm struggling with because I do have to take the time to go out into that area where I found the prints last year with some friends and see if that area survived the forest fires. That's the hard part right now, is taking that time to go into the forest to see what's going on, because everything is just so still in such a danger zone, and they've actually closed off so many areas of the backwoods in our area due to, because they've closed it off to anybody who's 4x4ing, ATVs, motorcycles, any type of, terrain vehicle. They've closed it off, so I got to see if I can sneak out there in my truck and get out there. I'm hoping that we still can, but I am pretty sure that where the forest fires were, that if there is any Sasquatch in that area or wild animals in that area, they're pretty much going to be gone for right now.
Yeah, they would be moving through, not habitating there, or just simply visiting. Huh?
Absolutely, and I mean, getting back to the whole paranormal side of things, Liz, when you're putting together a paranormal team, part of the struggle that I'm having is, do you stick with just ghosts? Do you branch off in our area where people are having cryptid experiences, where people are having ufological and alien experiences and need someone to talk to? Do you all of a sudden have to take on all three? Because I'm an all three kind of guy. And if anything that I would say about myself is I'm not a paranormal investigator. I'm not. However, I do love talking UFOs. I do love talking aliens. And I do love talking Sasquatch. As much as I love a good ghost story. So if you're building your own paranormal team, which is something of an idea that I am still struggling with, do I hit all three up rather than take on one at a time, or just keep a team that is focused on one avenue at a time? I don't think that's fair to a lot of people, because myself being, a UFO experiencer, an ET experiencer, a Sasquatch experiencer, and that being part of my love, do I shut that off just because I'm going to focus on ghosts and spirits and helping people with hauntings? And I think that's a big topic that needs to be discussed with whoever I bring in to build this team.
Well, I would say one thing about opening it up to the experience that you have had. What I have noticed in the past is that somebody who, for example, has some mediumship ability and they're doing work with, their primary work is intuitive healing, for example, and they're clearing out negative energy. They haven't really ever worked with tree spirits or fairies or devas or jinn or other things. They can get so set in what they know about that everything can become what they know about, and if their knowledge base isn't broad enough, they don't have the discernment to say, that a tree spirit is not a demonic force. They don't have the discernment to say that a Sasquatch is not something else. So I would say it's good that you're thinking of opening it up, but also it's good that you're opening yourself up to experiencing or being aware of more versus less. And some people, here's what it sounds like why some people want to leave the paranormal. As you open yourself to experience more, you turn on a light on the astral plane that attracts things to you. And Steve Huff writes about it. It attracts things to you that you may not want attracted to you. Now, if you're trained in the spiritualist church, you have built-in protection mechanisms. But if you're not, it really can be an issue. And even if you are, sometimes you'll get spirits that are mischievous or, a little bit negative or nasty that can make your life temporarily a mess, until you recognize that they're there and you do your thing to clear them back out again. But that doesn't mean that you should close yourself off to being aware of more. What do you think about this, Dave Scott, in terms of working with other people and how many different opinions there can be on this?
I think there could be a lot of opinions, but I think one of the biggest problems that we see in the paranormal is it gets down to the people who are not taking this very seriously. They take this as a hobby or, some sort of adventure game or thrill seeking, right? Where they don't believe, because they may not believe in God, or they may not believe in a higher power or higher being, that they don't think that they need to protect themselves. And I think that is a very big problem going in and out of anything. Like when I go on to my tour at the 108, I make sure damn well that I am protected. And coming out, if I'm not feeling well, I protect myself again, or I cleanse myself again. And that's the way a lot of teams are. I don't know if a guy like Steve Huff was saying a prayer or saging himself, or praying for no attachments or anything like that. He might have been just hell with it, let's go with it. I'm not afraid of this. He may have been. I don't know. Never spoke to the man. But there are a lot of people out there, I don't need that crap. I don't believe in this anyways. And then all of a sudden, boom, they get something attacks them or attaches to them, and they can't figure out why all of a sudden they're having suicidal thoughts, or, they're getting angry with their spouse for no reason, and they've never argued. They just don't understand. What people need to understand in this field is and I know I'm preaching to the choir, to the most of you in the chat rooms, but this is a very, very dangerous field of research. More so than probably a lot of researchers who take the time and get the money to go out in the field and study the livelihoods of the North American mountain lion or bears or something along those lines. This is just as dangerous. However, because we can't see it, we take it and throw it in the corner and say, oh, it's nothing. I don't need that crap. It doesn't exist anyways. And that's a lot of people's attitudes with it. And that's where a lot of the danger comes in. Because we have a bunch of untrained people going in, and I consider myself untrained, okay? I'm not holier than thou. I consider myself very untrained. I'm just lucky to have a network of people who can teach me the proper ways and the ways that I feel I need to learn and want to learn. But we have too many people who are untrained in this field going into these locations, whether it's someone's house, whether it's someone's place of work, or maybe even a graveyard where their own family is laying to rest. And going in there, stirring up crap because they saw provocation on television, or they saw someone who has an attitude, or they just want that experience of getting that flash of a spirit walking by. It's not that way. This is dangerous. And if we're not going to protect ourselves, get out. Get out. It's that easy. Just don't do it. Go on the tours. Stick to the tours. Don't go into people's houses. And quite frankly, you're not a demonologist. You're not anything. And it's a lack of respect that a lot of the investigators out there have for this field that ruin it for everyone. And granted, we could say that politically. We could say that about our sports teams. We could say that about anything. It only takes a few to ruin it for the rest. And I think that's why people are starting to jump ship. They're getting sick and tired, Liz, of the BS. The hammering on social media people take. And granted, the minute you put yourself in the public eye, you are definitely going to be in the, in the sights of someone with a snark gun. But you still have to try and control what you are doing in your field of research. And that is a big, big thing that I don't think too many paranormal teams actually think about.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think there's another aspect to this about whether or not you should be involved with the paranormal at all. And it, to me, it speaks to what is your personal spiritual understanding. Do you truly understand that you are a spirit, or that you yourself are a spirit within a body? Are you solid in that knowledge? Or are you perhaps a physicalist? Are you somebody who just believes that the body is a bunch of mechanical parts, and you're simply curious? And so you're going out to get some answers to for either your skepticism or your curiosity, and you end up in the paranormal field in an unclear, ambiguous state about your own, may I say it, divinity, or your own spiritual worthiness or own spiritual reality. What do you think about this? What have you noticed in terms of people that you've seen in the paranormal who are unclear or ambiguous about their spiritual reality?
Well, I think a lot of people go at it right off the bat because it's a thrill. They see it on TV. They see it that they can go down to their local cemetery or into the local forest and get a rush. People like being scared. That's why horror movies, as dumb as the plots are, still make millions upon millions of dollars because people love that sense of adventure. Going back, let's go back to the old Blair Witch Project movie. People loved it or they hated it, but that's a movie that was made on like a $30,000 budget and made something like $150 million plus back in the day, which was one of the highest grossing profits ever in a movie. It might still be, I'm not sure because I'm not really a movie guy. But people love that suspense. They love to be scared. And if you have a chance to go on an adventure, a ghost hunting adventure, to make it even more elaborate, to get yourself scared, why not do it? And I can see where people are craving the adventure. They are craving the idea that they could, have something push them or touch them or trip them or scratch them. And yet, sorry, that triggered a little bit of a thought. But yet they aren't prepared for what the expectation is because they don't know what they're doing. It's like, I don't know, Liz, if you find it funny or not, but in the 3 years that I've been kind of researching this field now, have you noticed how every team has somebody who has 25 to 30 years experience? And everybody has a demonologist who has been a demonologist for a minimum of 5 years. And yet the demonologist looks about like 21 or 22 years old.
Yeah, it's the same thing in the psychic realm. I'll get on to some of the folks who are doing per minute readings, and you'll see somebody who can't be older than 24, and they've got 3 decades of experience, and it's like, you've been alive for 3 decades. You haven't been working professionally as a psychic for 3 decades, but yet you see it again and again and again, and it just screams fake to anybody who's paying attention. The unfortunate part is I don't think enough people are paying attention to the fact that somebody who looks like they can't be a day over 30 is claiming 30 years of experience. And I'm sure it's the same in the paranormalist field. It's like, you can't have been a demonologist for that long if you are just that old. Somebody came to you and said, oh, you were a demonologist forever, you were a demonologist in your past life, yada yada yada. Is that how you explain that away? I don't understand it, but I recognize it, and it makes me want to flee from wherever I see it happening, because it just smacks of fraud.
Well, it does smack of fraud, and I know we only got about 2.5 minutes before we go to break here, but it does smack of fraud because I think it's laughable. This community that we call the paranormal has some brilliant people who work in it. I think we can agree to that. Everybody who is listening can absolutely agree that there are some brilliant people in this field doing some really good research. May not be scientific, but they're doing really good research to bring some of these mysteries to light. But it only takes that one person who... And I know there's one person, you mentioned psychics. I know there's one person who added me on Facebook about 8 months ago, started listening to the show, and, was like, wow, I've had that happen. And talk to me privately. Have you had experiences like this? Yeah, I've had experience. Well, 6 months later, not even 6 months later, this person is going on Facebook Live, doing apparent live readings because they're psychic now. How did you become psychic in 6 months? That's what I want to know. Where did you go to this school? Because I sure as hell could use the education. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not too sure of mine. But, this field, Liz, continually beats ourselves up. We shoot ourselves in the foot. And I know we got to go to break here in about 40 seconds. So we can continue this after the break if you want, Miss Hostess.
I do. I think what we're going to do is I want to get into my pet peeves about alien abductions and alien abductees who aren't real and are real. And also take your calls. We're going to give out a number and take your comments from the chat room to talk about what you want to talk about. Because this is Spaced Out Radio. We are here for you. We want to include you in the conversation, and we will be back right after this break.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report and let's find out the answers together.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays. From aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between, we got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird? Right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Elizabeth Anglin and SOR.
Good evening. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. This is your host, Elizabeth Anglin. I am here with SOR's host, Spaced Out Radio's host, Dave Scott, and we are talking about paranormal struggles. What makes us just want to quit the paranormal? I am coming to you from the desert Southwest, and before we talk about that, I want to welcome back everyone listening from WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, everyone on spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and KTLK, The Fringe. Thank you for being here and listening tonight. You are the reason we are here. Hey, we want to hear this hour your chat questions and call in. Dave, are we using your number tonight, dear?
Sure, we can use my number, 702-302-4556. The call-in number once again, 702-302-4556. Excellent. I would call in if I weren't already on the phone, so I encourage everybody who's listening to call in for me, since I can't do it since I'm already here. I would be duplicating myself, and I understand that if you are time traveling, did you know that if you are an electron and you time travel back in time and meet yourself, that you will try to kill yourself? Did you know that, Dave? I did not.
Yes, so don't try to duplicate yourself. I won't try to duplicate myself. Just call in and tell us about what about the paranormal is confusing, concerning, or makes you just want to quit if you're already in it. I'm going to talk about my pet peeve and my more personal area of experience for a little bit, which is alien abduction support and alien abduction research. And lately, some of the same situations in the past couple of years I've especially experienced, that as alien abduction has come back out of the Netherlands or the netherworld of you guys are all crazy, go away, nobody wants to talk to you, as it's come back into vogue, so to speak, there are people who are coming into support groups and support group chat rooms. I used to and still do actually administer the alien abduction support group on Facebook. And I'm actually not there very much because my feeling about it is that there are so many people who are just gathering information from other people for their own purposes. They're not presenting information that is unique, unusual, or highly felt for them. And I want to be really clear about this, that there is a feeling, and it's subjective, it's energetic, but when you see an abductee talk about their abduction experience, when you hear somebody who's actually had a contact experience with an alien, when you see their body language, when you hear how they're saying what they're saying, when you talk with them about how it's affecting their life and the ontological, the worldview shock that they go through, and how that's as big a part of it as actually having had the experience, you know that a person is an experiencer. You know by the amount of immediate uncomfortability. Now that's not a word, I just made it a word, but they're uncomfortable. It is an uncomfortable thing. And then all of a sudden what we have, because alien abduction has somehow, I guess X-Files came back. I don't like horror. I don't have a TV. So X-Files comes back. All of a sudden what we have are bunches of people who are clamoring to get into alien abduction support groups who have no business being there. And some of them even want to say, well, you should let me in because I have autism, so I'm alienated. And the fact of the matter is, no, go to your own support group, please. If you have autism, if you have something else, go follow your path. And if your path is what you came here with, it's not alien abduction. You don't need to be in an alien abductee support group. If you're in as a looky-loo, if you're in because you want to write a book, if you're in because you want to write an expose, shame on you. You are taking time away, which is all volunteer time, from those of us who have been in the field for a long time to those of us who are just coming to a realization of their experiences. People that you will never hear their names. They will never write a book. But the one thing that they may do, because they're getting support, is be able to go to work, is be able to kick their agoraphobia, is to be able to take care of their children appropriately. So the thing that makes me want to quit is when looky-loos jump in and all of a sudden have to take part, and isn't it great that they're doing it? No, it's not great that you're doing it. Please go live your life and have the things that you have going on that you need support with or that you need to understand be part of your life, not this other thing, because it isn't, some people think, and to a certain extent this can be true, but some people think that the alien abduction experience is this great consciousness, mind-expanding trip. There's a whole heck of a lot of trauma on this trip, folks. Go take some mushrooms. Go have a mushroom mocha. Go have some DHT. Go do what you need to do your consciousness trip without inserting yourself into an alien abduction support group, please. Because it is not a trip. The people who are in these groups do need support. And anything that they gain in terms of consciousness, in terms of psychic ability, in terms of an understanding of the cosmology of the universe, only comes about through peer support. And you are interfering with that peer support when you don't find your own pathway on your own consciousness, mind-expanding journey. And I can't say this enough. Ever since I became involved in this field, back in 1990, back with my first experience that I truly took me out of denial in November of 1989, and then going into research in 1990, I have been surrounded by people who want to be abducted, who think that it means that they will become spiritually enlightened. Well, you might become enlightened if you go practice some meditation and if you do some other pathway that is more accessible to you than the pathway of the abductee. All pathways are valid, but if you're not an abductee, don't wish it on yourself or anyone else. And if you're really not meant to be an abductee, you won't become one by hanging out with other abductees. So please cut it out, because this is the thing that makes me want to quit. Dave Scott, what do you have to say to this?
I would agree. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, how many people are doing it because they want the 15 minutes of fame? They want that storyline. They want that potential movie like Travis Walton got. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things happening out there that people will do anything for that 15 minutes of fame. And unfortunately, there are so many gullible people out there who take every story to heart. And when I say gullible, I'm not saying that on a insulting type of way, but I mean, people want to believe. We see those posts all the time on social media. People want to believe, and they're willing to say and do whatever they can in order to get a story out there because it's interesting. It tells a tale. But any real abductee knows what is going on and what isn't going on. Sure, they may have questions as to, the definition of the happenstance. However, do you not feel, Liz, that it is easy to tell a true abductee from one who is just looking for fame?
Absolutely, absolutely. And on the support groups, you guys stick out like sore thumbs when you're pumping people for information. And even if you're not looking for fame, if you're just looking for an alternative group to belong to, abductees by and large will have a train of thought that they have not been able to share with other people in any other situation but with other abductees. And when you are not an abductee, even if you show up at an in-person support group with 5 people in it, and this happened with the first support group I was in, the 2 guys that came had a friend who wasn't an abductee, but he liked to hang out with his friends, and so he came, and we'd all be talking about the things that were happening with us, the beeping in the ears, the strange marks, missing time, family stuff. And all of a sudden, their friend would come out with something that was totally unrelated. And we all knew it was totally unrelated. It wasn't part of the phenomena. Because we have also a subconscious knowledge of what we've been through. It may not be right in the front of our mind in our memory banks, but we know whether or not it has to do with abduction or whether or not it doesn't. So if you think you're fooling an abductee by saying you're an abductee when you're not, and asking questions that an abductee would never ask, and explaining things in a way an abductee would never explain them, you aren't. You are making a fool out of yourself to people who are being too nice to you to tell you that you are doing so. And you might get somebody in the mainstream media interested in your collection of stories from other abductees, and you might be able to cobble together some information to get your 15 minutes of fame or 20 or whatever, depending on how good a marketer you are. But what cost is that on your life, and what are you saying about who you are as a person? Why is your life not valuable in and of the experiences that you have within it at this time? Why is it not okay for you to be you as the person who you are? Every abductee wants this question answered, because we have to live, for the most part, if we haven't come out, we have to live in a closet our entire lives. Why would you choose a closet for yourself? And living as an abductee or presenting yourself as an abductee is choosing a closet within a closet. Why would you do that? So really take a good look at yourself if you're doing this, because it's not worthwhile. And really find out Every path has a wonder to it. Every path has a spiritual component to it. Everyone has the ability to have fantastic, amazing things happen if they are open to them. You don't need to become an abductee in order to experience these things. Don't choose it. Don't pretend it, please, because you make me want to run away screaming as if my hair is on fire.
Yes, but Liz, for a lot of people though, who are seeking some sort of fame, or let's go beyond fame. Let's just say attention. This is an easy way to do it. Because in reality, how do any of us know? And if they study enough areas, you can absolutely feel the idea that you can dupe people. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could dupe people just by what you learn to read on the internet of what it feels like. You know, a real abductee will be able to call BS on it, but for the most part, the people who are researching this field who've never had an experience, they may not know.
Yeah, they will. You can cobble together a really interesting story from other people's stories. I've seen the cobbled together stories, and what for an abductee, what will give it away will be these 1 or 2 points that just don't ever happen because of the structure of the experience. Those points that you're talking about, which are cobbled together from other people's partially talking about their own, you're missing some very intimate information that you are not going to come by, and so what you're cobbling together has missing pieces, or a lot of times people will put in their own information to a missing piece that just never happens. For example, if you are paralyzed by aliens, you are not screaming at the top of your lungs so that your throat gets raw. You know why? Because your throat is paralyzed. So when I had somebody write a story about how she was paralyzed, that she was screaming at the top of her lungs, so her throat was raw and she couldn't speak for 2 days afterward, I know of no abductee who is able to scream while they are paralyzed. You scream in your head. And, you know, if you want to change your stories now, there are other things. We will find them. But we can't make you stop. We can only say, look at yourself. Why are you doing this? You know, why are you doing this? There's no abductee police. There's nobody who's going to make you stop doing what you're doing. But the question really comes down to, what about your life do you find so unfulfilling that you have to have an alternative one that isn't real?
Liz, there's a question in the Spreaker chat room that I'll ask to you. This one comes from Tracy, a new listener over the last couple of weeks. So thank you, Tracy, for tuning in Spaced Out Radio. She says, it's hard to tell the difference between contact or a dream, isn't it? Whether it's alien or spirit?
No, not if you're a true abductee. Actually, no, not at all. Although there are a lot of abductions lately that are astral abductions. And what you'll have in that case are some, you know, little aliens taking people out into the astral plane to go do things. And so that would be a contact experience. I would call that a contact experience, not an abduction. Some people would call it an astral abduction. But if you're actually physically abducted, you go through a lot of the emotions simply because you're in a physical body and your ego wants to prevent your physical body from being harmed. So you go through the fear, you go through the paralysis, and when you remember these things, it's traumatic because you are disempowered because you are so much stronger than most of the aliens who will ever abduct you. And part of it is them protecting themselves. When you break that paralysis and you get back into your power, you can break aliens. You can hurt them. And so, you know, things have shifted a lot more toward the astral experiences, which seem more dreamlike. And for those, it's like, I don't have a problem with people not knowing whether it's astral or whether it's an abduction, because there's a different purpose to those, and there's a different kind, you know, they may not even be traumatic. They may actually just be, you're being trained. You're being trained, you're being reinformed, you're being downloaded with information you used to know. You're being reminded of a skill set that you have. And I sort of like those forms of contacts for some people when they're positive, because it's okay to be trained by beings who know about telepathy, who know about the astral plane, who know about interdimensional realities. I think it's okay, and I think that by and large they don't want to hurt you. And so if that's what's happening, then I say, all for it. That's great. And your experience, if you write that down, if you journal that down, if you try in the morning to keep a notebook about what happened the night before and what you learned, that's going to be valuable to you. And later on, it may prove to be valuable to other people. So, no, I understand where you're coming from, but if you're an actual physical abductee, it's a much different experience, and some people try to fake that.
So what are key signs that you have seen from people who are faking it?
They really, really amp up they do a couple of different things. They amp up the physical trauma in a stream, in a sort of monologue of information about it's a storyline. This is what happened to me. So normally people who don't fake it are very tentative about how they present what they've been through, and they might give you a sentence or two about what happened or the beginning of an experience. And then if you seem to be open to hearing that, then you might get another sentence. And if you seem to be open to hearing that and familiar with that, then you might get two or three more. The people who are faking it, by and large, will give you a storyline that is pre-presented as if that's just okay. Most people who are really abductees have a lot of programming that is to prevent them from sharing this information with the wrong people, and where they have had a lot of reverse mental programming not to share at all. So they're going to be extremely tentative about what they initially share versus just blurting out, well, this is my abduction experience. What? First time they come into a room. And what most physical abductees will share in the first two or three sentences is pretty much the same thing. And or it depending on what they're sharing about, it's usually just the beginning of the experience. It's usually, this was the shape. Have you ever seen, they'll ask a question, have you ever seen a craft that looks like this? They want to know if you have seen what they have seen, if you've experienced what they've experienced. Have you ever seen this? And so they will come out with something specific first, instead of coming in and asking a bunch of questions. Well, what did you see? Well, what did you hear? Well, what did the craft look like? Abductees don't, by and large, want to be re-traumatized by other people's information. They just want to know if their information is real. And so they're going to ask qualifying questions of people in the support group. Have you ever seen this? They're not going to be like, blah, 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 blah. Tell me everything that's ever happened to you. It doesn't happen that way.
Well, I'm going to give you an interesting story here because, Liz, I am an ET abductee and contactee. I had something happen to me yesterday that I have no idea how it happened. And today it was Mrs. SOR. So yesterday I got out of the shower and Jolene says to me, "What are those two scratches on your back? How did you get that?" And on my back, I had no idea. I went to the mirror and I saw two fresh-looking 3-inch scratches about 1.5 inches apart going vertically down my back. I went and asked her to check on those scratches a few hours later, probably 4 or 5 hours later, and the scratches were completely gone. Completely gone. Today, as Jolene was getting changed from her pajamas, I said to her, "What did you do to yourself?" She goes, "What do you mean?" And she had about an 8-inch bruise going lengthwise, about 1 inch wide and about 8 inches long on her left leg, starting, almost by her hip and coming right up to the front of her thigh. maybe about 5-6 inches, pardon me. Okay, and then directly on the other side, about a 2 to 3 inch bruise. Both are dark purplish black. That was on her right side. So the long one was on her left, the smaller one was on her right, but they were almost equal to where they were on both legs. So I said, what happened to you? And she's like, I have no idea. And this is the first time that I have noticed scratches on me that have disappeared within hours. You know, you get scratched by a cat or you scratch yourself on something, that scratch stays there for a while. And this was fresh, like you could see the stuttering in it. And they are gone. There's not a mark on my back. And then the bruises today.
And that's very typical. I mean, having gone under regression 27 times, having been very alert to everything that was happening with my physical body for 7 years as a research subject, literally you would know, you become able to tell when you've been abducted, and then if you check yourself out, you'll see that you'll have a scratch and it will knit so quickly. I've had scratches that look like pretty deep and nasty cat scratches knit up and heal up within 2 hours. You know, I'll get myself ready to go to work. I'll be at work and I'll look at my arm. There's nothing there. So even slight burns, if you accidentally get bruised at some point or another, her bruises should heal up pretty quickly if that's what they are. This is the kind of thing that people who are abductees, they want to know that the experience is real, but at the same time, they'd usually prefer that it not be. Now, and it depends on where you are in terms of your interest in the universe and your wonder about the universe and your feeling of safety and security with aliens and within the universe and your feeling of connection to all that is and all that's living. But I think for most people, the sense that you want to know that it's real, but you also want to know that it isn't, can really go on for a long period of time. So, how was Jolene? What did she say about it?
She's a little weirded out. I asked her point blank. I said, "Did you get taken last night?" And she goes, "I don't think so. I'm not sure." However, the other night, our little guy, at about 3-4 in the morning, he'll crawl into mom and dad's bed. And he was very restless the other night. And he literally kept on saying that he was seeing things or seeing people or something at the end of our bed. Jolene couldn't see them. I was too busy. I zonked right out. When I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping. Nothing's stopping me from sleeping. But he was adamant. There was people standing at the end of Mommy and Daddy's bed. And now we're wondering if that had anything to do with it.
No, I would suspect that it would if he's adamant, because he doesn't have a reason to lie. He's a little kid. No, this is what I saw.
Exactly.
There were people. He doesn't have a reason to have any shenanigans going on. He's a kid. So, yeah, Dave, I think you had something happen, but you've been under a lot of stress.
I have been.
I don't think the stress is causing the experience, but I do think sometimes that your alien abductors become interested in checking you out when your physical and mental and emotional body is under stress. Because sometimes you can come back and feel great. Have you noticed that?
You know what? I am so busy catching up on 3 years of sleep because I've been working for 16 hours a day that I'm not even noticing. Every day I'm feeling a little bit more refreshed. So it's something that I am, trying to gain back. I mean, I was only averaging between 4 and 6 hours sleep a night for the last 3 years and working 16, 17 hours a day. So I haven't noticed a thing. I do know that, I don't feel as tired or as groggy anymore, but that's probably due to my gain where I'm sleeping about 8.5 hours a night now. So whether or not I have been taken, I have no idea.
Yeah, because you really need that sleep, so you'd be sleeping pretty deeply, or you wouldn't be complaining if somebody was putting you asleep. That was the thing in the early days of I refused to sleep so that I would notice when the aliens would come and put me under, so to speak. I wasn't really under. My energy was just reversed, so that I couldn't stay up and I couldn't move. But I would refuse to sleep. And when you're really tired and you're sleeping, it's a good time because, you're easy. All right, so we have a question from Joe Allgaier in the Spaced Out Radio's Space Travelers chat room. Can reading a book about abductees cause blocked or forgotten memories to surface? And my answer to that is, for some people, yes, but it can also, if you are a person who has other psychological issues, it can make your psychological issues seem like they fit into an abduction. But yes, reading about somebody else's events, it gives validation, and it can allow you to explore the memories that you do have a little bit more fully because you're in a safer space. That's been my experience. What do you think, Dave?
Joe, you're an abductee. We've talked about this many times on the air. You are an abductee. The coins moved, my friend. The coins moved. That's all I needed to know. You see way too many black triangles above your house, and too many strange things in your photographs, and too many owls sitting on your trees to know that when you get abducted, the Greys are just brushing your hair very, very nicely because they are so jealous of the hair you are packing. No, but on a serious note, Joe, we've talked about this. You are totally an abductee.
Yeah, Joe, it's not just because we like your hair and we want you in our club.
Oh, no, we love the hair. We love the hair. No, don't mess with the hair.
But that's not the only thing. You've said some things to me which I won't repeat. But, it has to do with the things that you think that you've done, on a ship, or the things that you think that have happened. These are things that are par. They are in line with my own experience and the experience of other people I know. And I don't want to out your experiences on the air, but yeah, you are. So, you noticed. That's good. Hopefully, if you want, you'll remember something and it won't be too stressful. And if you don't, well, that's okay too. Go
question
ahead,
for you: how do I then try and figure out if I was abducted?
I go to my intuition now. I go to my remote viewing skills now. And it seems convoluted, but it's really not. So I started out as an abductee. I started out, my only spiritual practice was meditation when I found out that I was an abductee. I was not doing any sort of readings. I was not, I knew I was intuitive because people had told me, but I had some prophetic dreams, and I had some telepathic things happen. After I realized I was an abductee, all of those things just went bananas and berserk in my life. And to control them, I learned how to do spirit mediumship and remote viewing, and also Reiki, which helps with that. And what I found since that time is that I can connect, like if you were to do spirit mediumship with Carl, or have someone do a reading with Carl, you could ask Carl if he knew if anyone had been in your house. If you were to do remote viewing, and I tend to like to do remote viewing in combination with Reiki, in order to just target more specifically with more energy, you could remote view what was going on in your bedroom last night when your child was seeing figures at the foot of your bed. And your target is just the event of my child seeing figures at the foot of the bed, what was actually going on there. When you practice enough, you end up bilocating back to the event, and kind of in a sort of disconnected and objective way viewing what's going on with you, and it's much less traumatic than, say, for example, going into hypnotherapy for the event. So, I mean, you have this ability, Dave. So, and rather than fighting it, I would really dive into it in order to serve yourself and to heal yourself and to remote view some of your own experiences versus relive them as if you're still in your body.
Well, that's something that we're going to have to try and do over the next little bit because I'm very curious about it. But it's something that, you know, maybe I'll get a hold of our Keith Andrews about it and see what he says. But it's very intriguing nonetheless. I mean, scratches that just disappear over hours. I've never had that happen. Ever. You know? Never had that happen.
You're just special. You got those special scratches.
Maybe.
Hey, we are still taking chat room questions and phone calls if you want to chat about a paranormal experience, if you want to chat about an abduction experience. What's the phone number, Dave?
702-302-4556. That's 702-302-4556. Please remember that sometimes Skype acts up, so if we don't pick up, it's not that we're not wanting you to. We will make sure that, you know, we call you back.
Yeah, we'll call you back because, you know, we're not like that. We're not standoffish. Well, it depends on who you are. Okay, so, Dave, what's your next pet peeve in the paranormal?
My next pet peeve would be that I would love to see researchers be more natural. You know, and I know I've said this many a times on the show, okay, but I would love to see more researchers become more natural. And what I mean by that is, you know, too many times we have researchers who are out there, Liz, who are hiding behind the word science. They're hiding behind other types of, you know, descriptions about what they are doing and what they're all about, so on and so forth. And I just want to see a lot of people come out and just give the honest truth. There's too much opinion out there that people are trying to sell as truth or scientific fact when it's not even the case.
And that is very true, and that's what gets us into problems with skeptics. I actually pulled off for this conversation a blog from a skeptic who was recently on a paranormal show. This person is Sharon A. Hill. I don't know if she's been on with you, but she was on Been All of America. And she was really trying to bridge the gap between paranormal researchers of all stripes and skeptics. And they had a good interview. It was non-confrontational. And, you know, she came away from it thinking that, you know, she actually didn't judge the paranormal as harshly as the host of the show, Ben All, did. So some of the comments were, you know, a nice comment was, I think there needs to be less flat-out dismissal of the paranormal by skeptics and a renewed effort on the paranormal investigator side to bring some critical thinking skills to the game. You know, truth in advertising, do not claim to...
We do have calls coming in here.
Okay,
Liz.
good. Yeah.
So finish what you're saying, Liz. And then we'll
Truth in advertising, do not claim to be a scientific group and then simply repeat what you saw on TV. If you are in it for fun, just say so. If you are trying to find viable evidence, educate yourself and learn how the scientific method works. And this is from George Stadalski, and he says, as a paranormal investigator, I believe the burden of proof falls to the investigators, as do the burdens of credibility and professionalism. And I think George, in his comment, is agreeing with you, Dave. You know, the burden of proof falls on us. The burden of credibility falls on us. Another person stated that he says, I consider myself a skeptical optimist. This is Ken Summers. By that I mean I search for any and all possible explanations to anomalous phenomena. Yet, as the famous Mulder poster stated, I want to believe. So I want to believe the strange unknown creatures might exist. I want to believe that the phenomena we call ghost isn't just a psychological trick, but some explainable bizarre phenomena. And as doubtful as things might be, it's impossible to say definitively if something doesn't exist, only that it's extremely unlikely. At the same time, I do love good stories and historical folklore. And sometimes the most absurd story can lead you down a path to some really weird truth behind a legend. And that's the thing that fascinates me the most, the evolution of truth to legend. So, skeptics have a place in that. If you're looking at this not just as fun, if you're looking at this historically, if you're going into the past and finding out where the truth of a legend is, if you're willing to think outside of the box, if you're willing to apply science, is good. We should do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, who's on the line?
We got the preacher on line 1. The preacher on line 1.
Preacher,
hey, what's up?
What's the word, dude?
Hey.
Hey.
I was just wondering, wasn't one of the things about abduction is a bifurcation of time, or that you were slightly out of phase time-wise, and maybe the fast healing is as you catch up to current time is why it seems the healing seems to go faster?
That's a good question. Well, we were actually, I had a friend who's an abductee tell me about an event that happened just recently in San Diego, where he was leaving San Diego to go back to Phoenix with his family. And there are these two parallel roads that go down to Mexico, but he was on the north side of town going to Phoenix in the northeasterly direction on one of those roads. What happened is they had just left a Starbucks. They had just gotten like huge mocha frappuccinos or whatever the heck they are. And his wife had the biggest of the big size. All of a sudden, he finds himself at the Mexican border on the other parallel road that goes through the center of San Diego to get there. And he looks at the clock, and it's only 15 minutes later, and it was rush hour traffic in the morning in San Diego. So from the far northeast end, just outside of San Diego, through rush hour traffic to getting off an interchange and onto a completely different road and traveling south, he got there in 15 minutes, and his wife's frappuccino was gone, and she had to pee like a racehorse. So there was this something happened within that 15 minutes that took much longer and was much more unique and unexplainable. And I asked around afterwards, and even one of our listeners noticed that he had an experience that was somewhat similar. He can talk about it if he wants. And there have been other people who, since I've asked, have said that they've had experiences where they get home from someplace a minute after they left the place that was 30 minutes away. So, and they don't remember the trip. Just all of a sudden they're driving into the driveway. So yes, there is, but what would that have to do with healing, Eric? How would that affect the body?
I'm wondering if you're out of phase, say you're running, your body clock is actually at a slower phase, and as you catch up, the metabolic processes speed up until you catch up with the phase of time you're supposed to be in. And as if your metabolic processes were speeding up, to catch up to where you're supposed to be, or in phase with this particular timeline, maybe that accelerates the healing process.
Okay. What if you were not just out of time phase? What if you were in a dimensional phase shift? And I don't know, if you're dimensionally phased, do things that happen in the other dimension actually happen here? If a tree falls in the forest in another dimension, does it actually fall when you get back to this one? You know?
Yeah, that's true. Does it happen? Are they completely matched dimensions? One for one, occurrence per occurrence. That could well be a difference. Maybe you have a scratch in the morning and you're in one timeline, and you shift into the other and it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we stay, I'm not completely convinced that we stay in a solid, start to finish linear timeline dimension. I think there's some dimensional drift, because there's things that it's almost like a daily Mandela effect type of thing, that just little things seem to not match up at the end of the day. And I'm almost wondering, could we be just whatever our path is, we have to jump through, like bouncing off like a stone skipping on water. Maybe we're touching down in our dimensional timeline in different places.
Wow. Okay. There goes my brain.
Well, all I'm saying, didn't Pink Floyd write a song called Another Brick in the Wall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just sounds so metaphoric like that.
Another Brick in the Wall 1 and 2, as a matter of fact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you're our resident guru on guitar. And a resident scientist.
Exactly. Well, Dave, what do you think? Do you think you were time phase shifted or interdimensionally phase shifted? If I just said, Dave, what happened? How would you answer?
I would say I have no idea. And I would say I'm in the majority of the population who has been taken, who doesn't have the scientific acumen to try and figure it out on their own. That's why we have people like Preacher around here.
That's right.
Well, I'm just curious, because it seems like, okay, if you have missing time, and the way the off-worlders seem to be able to pick you up in one spot, drop you off in another, like you're saying, somebody made... I know that area, San Diego, when I was stationed there. You don't get there in 15 minutes. There's no way. So they've got to be taking us out, and we're outside of the stream of time. I don't think it's a matter of losing consciousness and then waking up and you've got missing time. I think it has to do with the way they get here to start with, and maybe those craft exist outside of time. If you're abducted, you're in the craft, you're no longer in our space-time dimension. You're just outside of it. And then when they bring you back in, maybe they're not quite as good at figuring out where you were supposed to be, or they don't care. It's like, they're back, horseshoes and hand grenades type mentality. They think if they get you close, that's good.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
Or do they, is this something kind of like a soft disclosure? You give these people missing time, they talk about it. They do it on purpose so that they do leave a breadcrumb.
I think it can be both, and it may depend on whether or not one of the things that happened in my experience when I was doing research is there were breadcrumbs that were left for Dr. Mack and I to do work around. So they would make it really clear that they wanted us to look into an experience by making the experience very obvious, either the beginning of it or the end of it or both. And so, within the next week, we'd go in and we'd do hypnosis and we'd look at it. And in that, some of the information, and I apologize to other abductees, some of the experiences I had, I feel, were more educational and were more positive than what some other people were getting, because it was a soft disclosure. They didn't want necessarily to disclose the very difficult experiences, but they did want to disclose other things. And so they would make those very obvious. And it could be that was, he does work with somebody. He'll probably go under regression for this. So that could be part of it. There may be some information there that they want out in soft disclosure from that.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Well, my goodness. So, Preacher, have we ever directly asked you? Oh, we've got a question for Dave first, and then I'll ask you my question.
Fire away.
Dave, have you... This is from Bob Davis in the SOR Space Travelers chat room. Dave, have you or do you want to be regressed for your missing time?
I've thought of the possibility. I think I would do it. It's not something that I would rule out. Do I see a purpose for it right now? I would say no, because it just doesn't really involve what I am doing right now. And I've got other things I need to focus on rather than taking more things on that I probably couldn't handle right now. So I just want to make sure of that. But one day I will, Bob. Absolutely, one day I will, and because I do want to know, I do want some clarification on things, and I will admit I'm a little nervous to get the answers. I really am, but maybe going under regression, I'm going to finally learn who Carl really is, or whoever else is taking me.
Dun dun dun! Hey. Okay, that's what we really need to know. It's our running spaced out radio question. Who is Carl, and what does he want with Dave Scott? I want to know, Preacher, do you think you're an abductee?
I think possibly yes. Not recently that I'm aware of, but I think when I was in college back in the 90s, at my mom and dad, when I was living with my folks, I had some creepy experiences while I was there. I think I might have been taken. I was sure I had an implant in my right arm about a month ago, because I could feel it was irritated. It was up near the top, up near the surface of my arm. I could actually feel what felt like a little metal piece right under the skin. Got an x-ray done last weekend, and it has either moved or been removed because it's not there, or it doesn't show up on radar, on x-ray.
But you also had the experience of it not being as present as it had been before. So you noticed that it was missing before the x-ray? Is that what you're saying?
No, I wasn't too long ago. As a matter of fact, I think I was on with Eric Cooper. Anyhow, it was right up near the surface of my, under my forearm, and it was, burning. Kind of it wasn't just an itch; it was a burn. And when I went to scratch, I could actually feel this hard object under the skin. And it finally, I got distracted and I realized it wasn't there later, but I thought, okay, maybe I do have an implant. But then when I, tried to get a picture of it with an x-ray, it didn't show up. So, like I said, it's either x-ray invisible, or it's been removed, or it's migrated to somewhere else. Because I was discussing the whole idea of getting it found and removed with Cooper on the via Facebook Messenger. I said, if they hear what we're saying, it'll probably disappear. And I was being facetious, but maybe not. I was being facetious at the time. Maybe
Maybe not, though.
Yeah, no, maybe not. I mean, that would be a good way to do it. So we're almost at the break, and we are going to be taking calls in the next hour, and we are going to be talking a bit more about the things that we hate about the paranormal that make us just want to quit, pick up our toys, go home. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what Steve Huff wrote. And I've gotten some word back from Paul Ham, who is a spirit medium in Australia, who I connected with, who also talks with the Zatans and does the clicking like Carl, and his opinions on being a spirit medium and dealing with people in the paranormal field. He actually said a neat thing, which I want to share with you when we get back. This is Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Elizabeth Anglin. We will be back in the next hour with more about our paranormal struggles, and you can call in or talk to us on chat and share yours with us. It's a safe place. We hope to see you here right after the top of the hour. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that we'll leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Elizabeth Anglin and SOR.
Good evening and welcome back to Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. We are on tonight with Dave Scott talking about paranormal struggles, things that make us just want to quit the paranormal world. I am your host, Elizabeth Anglin, coming to you live from the Spaced Out Radio Cosmic Cruise Mobile from the desert Southwest. And I just want to welcome back everyone listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on KTLK, The Fringe. Thank you so much for listening tonight. We are here for you. We are so gratified that you are listening, and we hope we can keep you on for the next hour too. At the break, I said I wanted to read some things from Steve Huff about quitting the paranormal, because my friend Paul Ham, who is a long-term, this is someone who's been a spirit medium for over 30 years, because he's 60, he can say that, 60 or 61, he can say that. He sent me the article from Steve Huff, and basically Huff is saying that he said, I will try my best not to make this long about why he was quitting the paranormal. I have been getting attacked for months from evil. I have had them attempt to possess me, and yes, I've been hospitalized for it twice. Recently, just in the last 2 weeks, things have been ramping up here since creating my gold box, and that box has made with instruction from voices that came out of my previous boxes. Needless to say, an attack on me, well, as scary as it is, I can deal with it. But when they start to attack my loved ones, which has happened, that is when a line is crossed for me and has to come to a stop. So I wrote back to Paul, and Paul's very level-headed. He is a spirit medium. He is very well trained. He can channel Zetans. He can do physical mediumship and apportation, which is quite skillful. And I said, what do you think? And Paul said, I tend to agree with him. I've been seeing more people as a spirit medium who are paranormalists or in the paranormal investigation field who are in dire need of help. So Paul is making a distinction here that if you are a trained medium, if you are somebody who is working in the field already, or it is your calling, Steve Huff is saying, get out of the field. That's really what he's saying. Get out of the field. Things are going to attack you. But Paul is saying, if you're already a medium, you've been working in the field, this is your calling, and you're very sure of it, you don't need to leave the field, but you do have to be very clear that you're going to see people who do get attacked, like Steve Huff is talking about. So I just thought that was interesting. Paul wasn't writing to me to say, get out of the field. He was saying, hey, you're going to start seeing more of this. That was his point of sending it to me. You as a medium will start seeing more of this. Get ready. Buckle in. That being said, I also want to move on to an open letter that I found from Tom Butler's Etheric Studies website. This is etheric-studies.org. And it's talking about science and the paranormal. And Tom Butler says in his abstract, this is a letter to members of the paranormalist community discussing lessons learned. As co-director of a TRANSC about science, scientists, and research, the letter includes a brief discussion identifying paranormalist dominant theories and the nature of paranormal phenomena and important considerations for their study. The intent is to advise paranormalists about the need for discernment concerning the intentions of those who would study these phenomena. And this gets back to what are your intentions? Why are you in the field? Are you a medium? Are you a trained medium? Is it your calling? Or are you here for fun? Or are you here to do science? So this is what Tom Butler says in his intro. Science is good. The science practiced by parapsychologists is not necessarily good. Much of it is done to prove paranormalists are delusional. You and I know that. To prove we are delusional, they must ignore or falsely represent our evidence. Scientists are supposed to be our friends. Some are, but the majority consider the average paranormalist inferior in many ways as second-class citizens that are not as smart, as well-educated, or as wise as a person with a PhD. Most people calling themselves paranormalists are retired from unrelated careers and using the study of paranormal phenomena as a hobby. They are less likely informed about the actual nature of these phenomena than you, the practitioners and experiencers. If you come away from reading this open letter with nothing else, I pray that you remember these points. If you want to see these phenomena properly studied, if you want informed scientists to help you understand your experiences, if you want to see the field of study evolve into a well-understood science, then it is important for you to know who to trust, who to believe, and whom it is safe to trust your phenomena experience with. It is important that you encourage the pretenders to go away so that the real scientist will feel free to help. Now, there's more to this letter, but just the introduction gives a whole scope of work that we can talk about in terms of how do we get the scientists who are unhelpful to go away. Dave, what do you think?
I would agree. I would fully agree in regards to that, because I think we need to be able to have some sort of continuity with what is going on.
Preacher?
Well, yeah, part of the problem is if you come through the educational system as a scientist, they sort of destroy the wonder and the curiosity of it. Everything, if you can't document it, it didn't happen. Well, we know as experiencers that that's not true. And I think the problem is getting, a mainstream scientist to admit that, there's things out there that science is not the tool to use. There's some things science is a tool it's great for. It's great for astronomy. Hey, Marty. It's great for, chemistry. But when you're trying to pin down non-localized phenomena or, this, what we call the paranormal, science falls short. It really does.
And Tom Butler actually talks about this in the next paragraph. While many of us look forward to the day a scientist will want to study our work, he says, few of us realize the potential problems that can come from being studied. In simple terms, science is great. Scientists, again, are not also that great. And it is for you to be aware of the differences, because many of those who have been aware of the difference have regretted ever volunteering to be research subjects. To understand the science of paranormal phenomena, it is necessary to understand the phenomena. You may not agree with the model that I, Tom Butler, use for this letter, but take time to think about it. If I did the work correctly, the model should be reasonably close to what you believe and where science is going. If not, at least it will be in principle. The model he presents below is based on currently understood mainstream and parapsychological science. Unlike more widely accepted models, it is greatly informed by lessons learned from both mediumship and instrumental transcommunication, ITC, which was what Steve Huff was doing, especially electronic voice phenomena. It will evolve over time, but for now I'm sticking with it because I need a target of sorts toward which I can develop arguments and collect supporting data. I suggest you pick a story about which you can learn to talk. So he presents a theory of reality in order to create the science. But basically, he says all that exists is the physical universe. The universe has evolved from a singularity into what it is today. This is how science looks at the world, not necessarily how the paranormalist looks at the world. This is the physical universe hypothesis. All that exists is the physical universe. The universe has evolved from a singularity into what it is today. Life has evolved on Earth into what it is today. Mind has evolved as a product of the brain, which is a product of evolution. Memory is an artifact of mind. When the brain dies, mind and memory cease to exist. People have only 5 senses: smell, sight, hearing, touch, and taste. To simplify conversation, people who think the physical universe hypothesis is correct are described here as normalist. Parapsychologists who lean toward the physical universe hypothesis often work under the banner of anomalistic psychology, which holds that reported paranormal experiences are actually ordinary world experiences mistaken as paranormal. In effect, these parapsychologists are debunkers determined to find a normal explanation for all psi and survival-related phenomena. And this has happened. I mean, even last week, I was reading in Scientific American about, everything is sleep paralysis. Right, Preacher?
Oh, yeah. That's, the hypnagogic state. Everything is, everything. It bothers me, the closed-mindedness and the grasping for straws, and let's just blame it on a phenomenon that no one really understands that well. And we'll call it hypnagogic or sleep paralysis. We can explain everything away by saying, it's all in your head. It's a chemical imbalance between what keeps you from sleepwalking and your brain's actually going to sleep. I'm not saying that sleep paralysis doesn't exist. I've had it myself. But it's not the answer for that. They throw it out as the answer for everything, and it's not.
Right. I want to invite in Joe Roop from KTOK. Is that right, Joe?
Yes.
Hey, welcome.
Right.
Thanks for being on.
No problem. I've been listening to the show, and I love the show. It's awesome.
Thanks.
Just wanted to tell you that, by the way.
Oh,
but sometimes, I wanted to talk about that earlier, where you guys were talking about the different dimensions and stuff. But now that you're talking about this, I think that, with everything going on as far as astral travel, what the Monroe Institute has done, what people have done as far as past lives where they have children that pointing out their past lives and saying things that it's impossible. And there's so many things that have gone on record that can actually, in my opinion, prove these things. Sometimes I wonder if it's not science that's the problem. It's the people's willing to believe science because they don't want to believe in anything other than their 5-dimensional reality.
Yeah, that's what Tom is actually saying. Scientists who are doing this anomalistic psychology are physical universe hypothesis scientists. They have their hypothesis, and they're going to do science that is biased toward proving that hypothesis. And no matter who you are, if you're in the social scientists, if you form a hypothesis and you're attached to it, if you're not looking for a null result, if you're not looking to disprove your own hypothesis, you're going to create research that will prove your hypothesis about the nature of reality or your ideas about what's actually going on. And there are other scientists so what you're talking about, Joe, is what Tom calls the survival hypothesis, which it's the greater reality of which the physical universe is only one aspect. An as yet unidentified form of space called psi permeates all of reality. The psi field is an aspect of greater reality. The mind with its thoughts, memories, and emotions has evolved into a greater reality and continues to exist beyond the death of the brain. For a lifetime only, mind and brain are entangled to produce a physical etheric link, a person. And during a lifetime, mind is expressed as consciousness. I think, I am this. And mostly unconscious etheric personality. I am this. Excuse me. Unconscious mind is informed by the person's 5 physical senses and psi signatures. And unconscious mind expresses to conscious self as understanding and is informed by worldview, memory, and etc. So,
Liz, do you want us to grab you some water?
Yeah, I'm going to grab some water. Joe, tell us what else you were thinking.
Well, what the preacher was talking about earlier, I just had an experience where it was a couple of days ago, and I talked about this to Dave, where, I've had my own astral travel experiences, and it's kind of hard being in the South. A lot of people around here don't believe me, but I'm starting to meet more people. But anyways, I'm digressing. But I got caught in a dream to where I kept trying to wake myself up, and and it was complete darkness. And as I would wake myself up, I would tap on my phone to try to turn the light on, and the light would dim out. And this is just lucid dreaming, right? So I'd go into the bathroom and try to turn the light on. The light wouldn't come on. Okay, I know I'm dreaming. So I'd try to wake myself up again. And I kept doing this, and I kept landing in the same dream. But each level, at first, I thought I was awake. I thought, okay, I'm awake now. And it took me a moment to realize that I was still in the dream. Well, this went on for hours. I slept for like 12 hours. I felt trapped. It just kept happening and happening. And when I finally did wake up, and, the lights worked and my phone worked and everything, sometimes I wonder how you guys were talking about perception, the tree falls and everything and the timelines and stuff. And we get deja vu and premonitions all the time. But, if you don't sleep, you'll die. So sometimes I wonder when we go into this state of sleep, that based on the choices we make, then when we wake up, we're in a different reality. I know that sounds far-fetched, but if all these other dimensions and timelines exist, we could literally change things like a video game. You know what I mean?
I'm so right there with you. I had the strangest dream this spring, which I've never experienced before. At some point in my life, I'm going to meet Joe from the SOR Space Traveler chat room at some point in my life. And I had this dream that I met Joe. Joe came to visit with his niece and my sister. And it seemed like a really real dream. They showed up in my house. We decided things to do. And, all the futons came out and everybody, went to bed, woke up in the morning, and all of us, and I really thought I was awake. I really thought, was meeting Joe, really thought I was awake. Woke up in the morning, went out to the back to let my dog out, and my house was in a completely different town with a completely different backyard. I was no longer in the desert Southwest. I was in Idaho or Oregon, and there was a major road going through the back, and there were condos, but my house was still my house. And then out front, there I was on the side of a hill that went down into a river valley, which is not, there's an arroyo here, not a river valley. So not knowing what to do, we had this whole discussion, my sister and Joe and his niece, about what do we do? Do we try to get out of this reality, or do we just go back to sleep and see if we wind up back where we were? So we decided just to, hang out at the house for the day, since we didn't know where we were and what might happen. Go to sleep and see if we woke up back in our own reality the next morning. Did that. Next morning, woke up, still thought I was awake. And now the house was in an old mining town on the side of the mountain. It was an old mining shack. And it was about to fall down because so many people were in it. And then I realized it was a dream when it fell down. But the rest of that dream of being in like an alternate reality was so real. I literally was scratching my head going, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? Like your phone. How do I turn the light on? How do I turn the light on?
Right. Yeah, it felt like a trap.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what if you do anything, is it going to work? If you don't do anything, is it going to work? And I don't know, but that's the first time that this has happened to me, where I've had that sort of dream within a non-dream, within a potential parallel reality. Dave and Preacher, have either of you ever had anything like this?
Yes, I have. That's kind of why I'm. It goes beyond like a Mandela effect. There are things in my life now that weren't there a couple weeks ago. Like I said, the analogy I use is like a stone skipping across the lake of reality, and it's I seem to sink in one spot, and things that I took for granted are no longer in place. So, yeah, I think it's not uncommon to become untethered to the reality you were born into.
I had a dream a couple of years ago, even before I started this show, when I started opening up on a spiritual level. And I actually, myself and Mrs. SOR was in there, and I actually met myself in a very different dimension. And I absolutely hated that person. I remember him, well, as in me over there, being in a very dark, it was on a street corner. Everything was dark. There was no street lights. It was pouring rain. It was damp, and meeting absolutely every piece of evil that I had in myself on a different dimension. And the only part of that conversation I remember in meeting myself was him saying to me, or me saying to me, "You wouldn't like me. Don't get to know me, you wouldn't like me."
Wow.
It was
pretty freaky day.
It was, that was one of the scariest things that I have ever seen in my dreams. And like I said, I don't know if it was a dream or I actually visited myself in an alternate reality or a different dimension, but it was so real. And I know there's more to that. I just can't remember everything along those lines. I remember that the other me was dressed in all black, like black t-shirt, black leather jacket. Everything was black. The sidewalks were black. The streets were black. The only light was like it was like going down one of these 1950s, 1960s, towns, not cities, but a town which had the old brick buildings, and everything was like a four-way stop. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of town it was in. But everything was black and pouring rain. And I remember in that dream saying to Jolene, we got to get the hell out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Because I could feel that he actually, if I wasn't him, I felt like he would kill me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's a bad dude.
Well, I got to wonder if that doesn't tie into, there are certain physicists who think that all of time is happening at once. Past, present, future.
Yeah.
Everything is happening at once. So if everything is, and if it's sort of like an infinite spectrum, say there's probably a you that exists that could just be as evil as it could be. There's it's probably just like a bell curve. There's a bunch of our existences where we're in that average, and then there's the one all the way over on the other side that's the best possible you, and they're all existing at once. And I almost wonder if you didn't tie into one that was like on the evil side of the average.
I have no idea.
Dave.
I have no idea. I don't know if that was, a metaphor for the darkness that's within me or within everyone. I don't know if it was poetic. I really don't know. But I can tell you this. I remember it vividly. It's still kind of eerie to me because it felt so real. And the one thing that always leads me to scenarios being real, and I've said this on the show many a times, I don't remember my dreams. So when I do remember one, it's almost like it is some sort of reality because I just don't recall them. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's something real in some sense that grounds into this physical reality because there is enough reality to it. It's not just spurious neurons in your brain saying, rest, reboot your brain. There's something more to it. I totally get that. Quantum jumping is a thing. I mean, there are people that can teach you how to do it, that you can go from parallel timelines to parallel timelines. I've done 13 parallel timelines. Not lately. This was something I started doing a few years ago, and I looked at my different lifetimes, and I was in Telluride at the time while I was living up on the Mesa, and I basically was in the Telluride area, and in every single one of the timelines, I was living in Telluride as a different me. And there was a boyfriend that I had back in 92, 93, 94, who I broke up with. He broke up with me, however that works. And I had always regretted it. So I was actually going to see what happened with him in these different timelines. Every single timeline we were broken up. Every single timeline it was one thing or another, or Sonia the Swiss ski instructor, And so it was like, wow, I feel so much better. That just was not going to work no matter what I did. So, but there was one in which I was extremely type A. And I'm not extremely type A, and I got such a kick out of seeing myself as this very money-driven, gotta drive a Beamer, type A businesswoman, real estate, Sotheby's real estate agent in Telluride. I mean, it was absolutely so not me. Karate champion. I'd never stopped taking karate from when I was a kid. It was craziness. So it can be fun. It doesn't have to be, as Dave had, a terrible experience to see yourself in another timeline, if that's what that actually was. Joe, what else is going on with you?
Well, that's all I really wanted to say. Other than that, to say that I like this show. I think it's awesome, and what I'm kind of thinking about the same level as Preacher is there. I think I am. Because the timeline deal fascinates me. Because I was telling a story the other day when I got into a wreck, and my ex was driving, and we almost went off the side of a cliff, and I was, re-narrating the memory as I saw it in my head, and I knew that's what happened. But I talked to my ex on the phone the other day, and she said, "No, you were driving. I wasn't driving." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" And then my friend was there. I called him. I said, "Was I driving?" He said, "Yeah, you were driving." And I was thinking, well, either I'm losing my memory, which I got a pretty good memory, or this past and future thing is just as unreal, or you could say real, as our dream states and other states of consciousness. There is no other state besides right now. The rest of it could be just an illusion,
Yeah. Yeah, consciousness may be just part of the net that's going out in all directions across time, and it's all happening. Sort of like a groupie from, what was that movie, Preacher, about music?
Oh, God, which one? Steel, the one about the rock star, or...
Yeah, the rock star and the groupies. Gosh, I can't remember. See, you shouldn't have me.
There was a movie called Rock Star. There was American Pop. Oh, Lord. I don't know. There's been so many. I'm not sure which one.
But, I mean, you guys know what I'm saying? Like, Dave was just talking about how he don't remember his dreams, and most of us will have a great dream, right? And we'll wake up, and as we're waking up, we start to forget important points. If we don't retell it, as soon as we wake up, we'll start forgetting the whole thing. And now I'm starting to see that my past is becoming the same way. So what's the difference?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good point.
It's from my understanding that the Aborigines and the Aboriginal people of Australia, that the dream world is a real world running parallel to what, our day-to-day world, that there is no difference. And there was another group of people that think this is the afterlife. That when we leave here, we go to the real life. Which is,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of, wow. That's why they don't get sad when somebody, they're sad for the fact that they're going to miss that person, but they're happy because it's like, they went back to the living world. They left, the dream world. Now they're in the living world. It's kind of a neat paradigm. I just kind of wonder if consciousness isn't how we deal with or filter if all of time is happening at once. Personally, I would not be able to, I don't think I could maintain my sanity if I could see both directions, here, now. Maybe consciousness is the filter that puts us where we can deal with the flow of time.
Yeah, we have to have something that manages it, We have to eat.
If all of time is happening right now, that means there's a T-Rex and a Triceratops fighting where you're standing, where you're sitting. There's a volcanic eruption going on. The Earth is being formed in what we have now, all at the same time. And it's just out of phase enough, or we just don't perceive it. We perceive this timeline that we are on right now, and it's just the only way we can exist as physical beings. I think if we're outside the body and we're outside the arch of time, we can that's probably a normal environment for our, whatever spirit is animating the meat suit. But when we decide to take on a physical, for whatever reason we take on this physical body, part of that is giving up the perception of all of time and, living within one timeline.
Preach on.
That's
Preach
right. Preach on.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I'm going to get off here. That's been
All
cool.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. See you later.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, Preacher, it's funny because as I'm looking at, I think in one of our shows when we get nerdy, we're going to have Tom Butler on because he's talking about this as one of the things that needs to be studied about paranormal and psi is time. And that etheric space, he argues that etheric space is non-local, meaning that everywhere is here. And that time is a practical necessity. The process is sequential because the nature of the next event in a process is dependent on the nature of the preceding event. Each event is a concept which is created by the thinker-observer. So while he can't argue if time exists, he can argue that time may as well exist. because you can't grow a tree from a non-seed, or at least most people can't just go, here's an orange tree, have some orange juice. And in implicit cosmology, he says there's a delay in perception between the reception of a psi signal or a consciousness signal and the presentation of the signal to the conscious mind. Sensing a psi signal can produce a physiological change before the person becomes conscious of an event happening. So it gets really complicated. And there's much more here to go on. That in its own ways is another reason why paranormal struggles are so great for all of us, because when you get to the really complicated nitty-gritty of it, it's overwhelming, and it makes you want to run screaming from the room. There is so much going on here. How can we study this? Preacher, what do you think?
Well, that's one of those things that, honest to God, I do lay awake and try and see through. It's just the whole idea, okay, if you go back to if a tree falls in the woods and there's nobody to see, no observer, does it make a noise? The meaning that all of reality is dependent upon an observer. And each one of us is an observer in our own, part of the universe. If there is no observer and the tree falls down in the forest, does it create vibrations in the air? Probably. But if there's no observer, because there's no sound there without an observer, because all sound is the human body's way of interpreting the vibrations in the air. Without the eardrums, without something to pick up those vibrations and translate them into what we call noise, there is no noise. Without seeing something, without our optic nerves taking in the input around us, does this stuff in front of us really exist? When you consider on the atomic level, even the most solid object in front of you is void, mostly void. So the whole idea of perception and our place in it has always been sort of just one of those, it's not uncomfortable to think about to me, but it's one of those things. I know in this existence I will never have my answer, but that doesn't mean I'm going to quit asking the question.
Well, and the bugaboo becomes, if we were born deaf and blind, which we very well may be, we may not have some of the sensory organ systems that would pick up all of what's happening around us on a vibratory level, on an atomic level, on, molecular level. How is it that we find out what we don't know about, if we don't even know that it's there to find out about, because we don't have a sensory organ for it? That's like, wow, I could have 10 fairies or 10 aliens or 10 somebody else's in an alternate reality in this room with me, who are very well aware of me because they have the sensory apparatus to perceive me, but I don't have the sensory apparatus to perceive them. And it's like, oh, okay, brain cramp, what do we do now? Carl could be sitting right next to Dave, and Dave might not have the sensory apparatus to know he's there. What do you think about that, Dave?
Oh, I have no idea. You guys have passed me on the education scale way too far here.
Just to turn to the left and yell, Carl!
That's exactly what I'm going to do. You guys continue on.
Well, it's like we have the sensory organ or the senses to there's 4 dimensions, length, width, depth, and time. But string theory posits that there's probably 11 or more dimensions, and we just don't have the sense organs, or like Liz was saying, we don't have the capacity to detect them. So, what we call reality is only 4 dimensions of, a space that we're in right now. If more exists, obviously there's more going on than we see.
Yeah, and we just... Dave just ran away screaming, going, "I'm out!" He was like, this is what we hate about the paranormal, because it's like, wow! String theory.
Well, how about, maybe what we're calling the paranormal is really just when these dimensions or these things that we don't have the capacity to reliably sense, they leak over, or for just a moment for some reason we're tuned all of a sudden where we perceive this thing, or just glimpses into maybe the 5th or 6th dimension. That's why it's so hard to get reliable, reproducible data on it, is because its intrusion into our space, our reality, is random and unpredictable in its own, just by its own nature.
Yeah, that's very, very possible. Okay, so I'm going to go back to something that Tom Butler says. What you experience is always modified in your unconscious mind before you become aware of the information. And so in the research that they were doing at A-Trans-C, they were able to show that a person tends to record EVP that confirms mostly their unconsciously held beliefs. And it is important here to note that a psi signal, which is the kernel for EVP information, is understood to be real. But since etheric space is conceptual, psi information is necessarily conceptual as well and must be embodied into objective terms. And it is how that initial conceptual signal, say from a discarnate loved one, is embodied through your mental channel that determines the content of the message. For example, Lisa and another person recorded for EVP in the same dark, reportedly haunted place. As a pragmatic researcher, Lisa is neither afraid of the dark nor does she believe in demons. She recorded helpful information and names. The other person, who liked being afraid, recorded mostly scary EVP, such as "get out" and "I hate you." And it is important to note that the phenomena are both real. It is just that the intending meaning can be changed by worldview as they manifest in the physical. So the annoying thing here is that the paranormal will F with you based on your personality. What do you think, Dave?
Tough to call. Very tough to call.
Preacher.
Well, that ties in very much with part of some of the things I've read in the unobservable universe, in that we filter, even in as much as a freshman psychology course, they talk about we perceive through filters. And I think possibly what we're getting with these people recording different EVPs at the same time is their filter is, making what it is, what shows up is what we were prepared to hear. It kind of goes back to when they were doing some of the early physics experiments, and Niels Bohr's thinking, we are having an effect upon the experiments. The observer is causing an effect. So there's a hard science documentable phenomenon that holds, is hand in hand with what we're discussing, what he's discussing in that article about perceiving what you're, having an effect upon what you're hearing or what you're seeing.
Too true. Hey, Dave, I'm going to let you take it even though you're out, or Preacher, because I've got to let Wyatt Earp out before he shoots me. I'll be right back.
Preacher.
Dave, what's up?
Oh, just living the dream. Living the dream.
It's my Friday.
Yeah, we got a radio show here, bud. So, when it comes to the paranormal in regards to timelines, do you think that there is a possibility that there are a multitude of us living on these timelines, or do you think that there is just one of us but maybe split into different timelines?
I have thought that there is one of us for each timeline, and that maybe what we call our consciousness, that part that perceives the part that's you and me speaking right now, maybe that can migrate up and down through the spectrum of our different lives. That, there's you and me having this conversation. I'm aware of what you're saying, you're aware of what I'm saying, but we're not aware of what's going on in the other dimensions. But this part of us that is communicating right now can move to one of those others, and we can become aware of what's going on in that other life or in that other dimension. I think it happens.
I think so too, and there may be information that's contained in the other dimensions that could be helpful if it were here, or at least would make things a bit more complete. My brain. I want to run screaming. All right, I'm going to look at the chat room. And did Dave really go away?
No, Dave's still here.
Okay.
He's here.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Except my dog's going to bark again, so I got to go. I'll be right back. Hold on.
We got to figure out the dog thing.
Yeah, I always have to lock BB upstairs when I'm on, because if I don't, he'll be in the studio making racket because he's not the center of attention. He gets banished to the upstairs.
No, absolutely. So when it comes to the timeline theory, then, do you think that it's all relative to what we are supposed to experience on a spiritual level as well?
I've wondered about that. It's like, okay, if you are of a particular level, I think we evolve as spirits as well as human beings in physical form. But maybe as you move through this life, say you start vibrating at a higher level, and maybe you jump up, almost like valence electron shell theory, where as an electron gets more energy, it elevates to a higher shell in the atom. And I almost wonder if that isn't how we are. You can, say you let your bad habits take control. It's like somebody with a gambling addiction or a drug addiction. They vibrate lower and come down in the timeline. They go to a place where they're matching their spirit vibration is matching their physical, and then you get the people maybe that achieve more, or they conquer an addiction, and maybe their spiritual energy kicks them up a dimension or two on the timeline. There's so many things it could be, and we have no way of knowing. I just pretty much think that all of consciousness and all of our lives, the best possible one and the worst possible one, are all happening right now, And our perception, our day-to-day perception of self and life is the part that we are vibrating at. It's like the tuner in a radio. Our soul or our spirit is what resonates, and we pick up that part of the stream of conscious that we're tuned to. And that's, it seems like people that can meditate and do well for themselves go higher. And,
Yes.
that perception of, traveling up and down, being at the top of your game and then not, or, I just got to wonder if there isn't a me that's, living my dream, what this person talking right now would consider their ultimate life, cool, great, and that then there's the one I wouldn't want to even think about on the other end, and it's just a matter of what we do in our daily life determines where we go up and down that gradient.
And it absolutely, from what I've seen, is a gradient, that there are, the nearest lifetime. As a geographer speaking, you're looking at your nearest neighbor. So your nearest neighboring lifetime looks very much like the one next to it, and the one next to it, and the one next to it. There are just these shades of difference versus this tremendous difference, and until you get to the polar opposite ends. It's really fascinating. So I have a question for Dave. It's actually for us, if Dave is still here.
Yes. I do want to mention one thing. We do have some people calling in. For some reason, the Skype line is not going through my computer. I'm getting it over my phone. I know why it's happening, because the new update with Skype is screwing with the old update with Skype. So the reason why I'm not getting to any of your phone calls right now isn't because I don't want to. It's because they're not coming through on my computer, and I cannot attach them to the phone call. So please bear with us. It's not a spaced out radio thing. It's a complete Skype problem that they are having since Microsoft took over, and we all know that Microsoft likes to fix things that aren't broken. So that's the problem.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. I've lost so much from my Microsoft update, I don't even want to talk about it on my phone. It's not even worth mentioning. And because this is irksome to Dave, I won't ask the question which I really want to ask, which was from Joe in the Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers chat room. What if Carl is actually a gnome?
No, he's too big to be a gnome. You had to bring it up.
Well, your perception, your consciousness, and your filtering, because you don't want to see a gnome, he could appear as Carl.
No.
What about that?
No, he was a gray. Carl's a gray.
Carl is a gray. We're clear on that the perception seems to be real and accurate. All right. Well, Dave, we're getting toward the end, but not quite to the end. Did we get anybody coming through on the call?
No, we're going to have to cancel the calls for the rest of the night.
Okay.
But that's okay. We got the preacher here.
All right.
What if Carl is you in a different dimension? And that's why he doesn't show up, is you shouldn't meet yourself, and it was an accident that you saw him, but he's a observer, parallel universe, parallel dimension, where Dave Scott's not the human being that we know. He's that life form that you meet that we call Carl, and that's why he stays away. He doesn't want to screw up your timeline.
According to R. Keith Andrews and other people who've looked into it, Carl is his own entity, but he does have an extreme interest in what we are doing, which is kind of cool.
No, is Carl for disclosure? I mean, is that what his interest is?
I've never talked to him. He keeps abandoning me.
Oh.
I know. I'm waiting.
Well, if you increased your intuitive abilities, you would be able to connect directly with Carl and ask him.
Absolutely. That's That's something that I need to work on.
Yep. And then you don't have to get it secondhand. You can just ask him. Of course, when you go completely nuts because you're not ready yet, don't tell anybody I told you to do that. Preacher, one last question before we go. What is your major paranormal pet peeve?
My major paranormal pet peeve, probably the same. It's the same as Dave's. It's the posers. They're more interested in making a show of it than actually finding any answers. That's my major pet peeve. It's like belief through proclamation. There's not a thing to back up what they're saying. You couldn't back up their saying with a crazy supercomputer and a team of scientists, but they think if they say it long and loud enough, we'll believe it. That's sort of, the phonies and the posers are the ones that bother me the most. That's my biggest pet peeve.
And I would agree with that in terms of that these are people who are not saying we have a hypothesis and our hypothesis is this. They're just saying this is the way it is. So it's not only that they're posers, they're also expert gurus. They want followers. They want people to buy their stuff, to follow their worldview, that they're not just posers, they are posing or proposing a worldview without letting people know that they haven't done any work. It's just their hypothesis. They haven't done any science. They probably in a lot of cases haven't even done any reliable research, but they want to be followed. They want that. It's vampiric in the sense that they want that energy and that connection from a group of followers. And it seems to me, and I'm going to say this, apply this to the alien abduction phenomena, that it tends to happen a lot there, or an alien contact, an alien abduction. While some people may actually have, the reality of the situation in hand, there are others who if you come out, they expect you to propose a worldview and to gather up followers. Like it's almost as if it's expected that you have been enlightened by alien beings, and so now you are supposed to spread your new religion. And I'm not a big fan of religion. I like spirituality. I like science. I don't really like religion. So for me, I'm kind of in betwixt and in between, because it's like, oh, don't follow me. You're going to run off the road if you follow me. So, but, it seems like in the paranormal field, it's expected that the posers are going to be there and they're going to be followed, and that's how you get successful. Dave, last word.
It was a lot of fun tonight. Mr. Bumblefoot is playing in the background.
You'll be on tomorrow with...
I will be on tomorrow. We have Tim Doyle from UFOseekers.com coming in to talk all things alien and UFOs and his study down in California and the new stories he has to tell us. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. Same place as you. I'll be here. Will you be here? As we kick off a new week. Tim comes on the third Monday of every month.
Excellent. Thanks for listening, everybody.
To make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. walls and eyes are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you